Welcome, Mayur.
Thank you very much.
Such a privilege to have you here with us today. And this is 2025's first episode of what we call Strat-Chat. And the purpose behind Strat-Chat is to actually take the HR community up close and personal with leaders, HR leaders as well as business leaders like yourself, and help them discover what goes behind the scene, not just at the periphery, but take a few steps, down below, and give them some value out of these conversations. So, ladies and gentlemen, Mayur is a dear friend, is an ex-colleague, is a globally recognized remuneration professional. He currently leads Total Rewards for Zimmer, along with an HR portfolio for South Asia as well as Southeast Asia. Very illustrious career. मुझे बहुत वक्त लगेगा शायद सारी बात बताने में, but I think during our conversations perhaps the community will get an opportunity to know you and your thought process and philosophy on a subject which I think is so close to everyone's heart. The subject of remuneration. I think everybody works for money, and I think that's what you've been enabling for I don't know how many millions of people in your journey across. So, and therefore, I get very interested to ask you. I mean, I think your job is perhaps like the job of the finance minister of the country to an extent. तो ये हुआ कैसे, ये आपकी खुद की जर्नी कैसे शुरू हुई? What got you interested and hooked into becoming a comp professional and leading Total Rewards? अपने इस first love के बारे में, if you can, sure. Was it the first love actually, or it happened?
And before I come to the love part, it is absolute pleasure and honor to be here. Thank you very much for the invite. Whatever you have said, except for two things, rest everything is not correct. But those are kind words. The two things which are correct is that we are dear friends. Definitely, that's an amazing thing. And second thing is the job title. So that's the only thing. But the rest is all, I always give the credit to the organizations who gave me those opportunities. I have been lucky that way. And organizations have been kind enough to give me those opportunities, working on different parameters, right. Not only just Total Rewards, but everything from an HR point of view. I've done plant HR, I've done talent acquisition, HR BP. So it has been a journey. Total Rewards as such was not something that was by design.
Right.
Was looking at, as I was mentioning, I've done plant HR, I've done talent acquisition.
Yeah.
So I was looking for a next opportunity, what more can we learn in HR?
Right.
And there was an opportunity for talent, for the Total Rewards. And that is where the interest came in. So my initial, I can tell you, my first few months was like, what is this? What have I got into? And it was, all number driven, and everything was very, analytics being used, and suddenly you have to talk in that language, which is sometimes not very easy to understand. So that was my first, but I said, as everyone say, you throw the baby in the deep side of the pool, you start swimming and you become an excellent swimmer. And I think that happened with me. So I was in the deep side of the pool. I learned it hard way, but then I learned it because I said, ऐसा तो नहीं हो सकता. It's not rocket science at the end of the day. You have to learn it.
Right.
And luckily for me, I had good guidance coming in.
Right.
My managers, even my partners, various survey companies that I participated with, and there were people who took that time and put that effort there to make me understand. It was not that something has been thrown on me. So with that, it came, and then I started enjoying it. And then the love started. And that was in 2011.
Right.
And I have not looked back. So from there, obviously I was managing India initially, and then I started taking over Asia Pacific. And as you started taking Asia Pacific, we also realized that how different things are in each country. We say we are Asia, it cannot be more diverse than this.
Yeah.
You look at any country, even the smallest of it,
right.
So diverse. The regulations are different. the team members' expectations are different, the society is different, and all that really impacts total rewards.
Right.
And coming out from a thought process that it is just numbers, it's really not that. And that is what total rewards is all about. And that kept me going, and I'm still learning.
बहुत बढ़िया. But I also know that for a fact that you've started passing on the love further by helping younger professionals in whatever little capacity that you've been, I think, investing personal time and energy, and also giving back and sort of helping the community understand this more, right?
I enjoy doing that.
Yeah.
And I think the more you give the knowledge, I think you become knowledgeable. So it's not that, I'm just telling them something. They are challenging me. So they are challenging the thought process.
Right.
So I learn in that.
Right.
And I really enjoy that. Interacting with the fraternity, talking to the people about total rewards, something which is I really, I'm passionate about it.
Right. Right.
And I don't believe anyone can really say, someone is a real expert in total rewards, because it's such a vast field.
Right.
And when you interact with all these people, you realize, okay, there's something that you have not thought through. So I go back and then I, study and then prepare myself for the next session, whenever that will happen, so that I can answer that one. But for me, it's a learning.
Yeah.
So I enjoy doing that. Yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, unlike most of the other things we do in HR, this is, I would say, a little more techno-commercial in that sense, right? So it keeps you always, it requires you to continue to learn and look at newer ways of looking at same data perhaps. And anyway, so let's dive deeper.
Sure.
So one of the asks from a rewards professional always, I think, whether it is promoters or, professionally run organizations, everybody is, either wanting to save cost or trying to drive productivity and retention, right? In your experience, maybe one or two of the projects perhaps which have delivered to some of these objectives that you'd like to share with our community.
So if you look at the headcount cost, compensation and benefit is part of that, and that's primarily what the headcount cost is. It can range from being 30%, 40% of the OPEX to 9%, depending upon how good the economies of scales are.
Yeah, and what industry
you are. So again, there's a range.
Yeah.
And obviously that's the focus for everyone, right? And as an organization or as a world, moving towards a more VUCA world, things are changing so fast, organizations have to work towards that. So I think the basic parameters for any compensation, total reward, should be that it should be fair, it should be legalistic, it should be transparent, and it should be something which can be implemented with ease of communication.
Right.
And if we do that, the rest of it will follow. So, if you specifically focus, say, on productivity, right? And in an organization, you will have multiple layers of levels.
Right.
Senior guys, junior guys, new entrants in the industry, Generation X, Generation Y, and we have
bade combinations
Yeah, exactly. So as organization, we have to keep on thinking and evolving ourselves just to ensure that we are taking care of. Now, for a junior level team member, the person may be looking for an immediate gratification, whereas when it comes to a middle manager, maybe looking for a different way of total rewards. And then when it comes to senior leadership, they are looking very differently. And the difference comes from the fact that you offer more bonuses, more short-term incentive to that person who's, your foot soldiers.
Right.
People who are delivering day in, day out.
Right.
That's what keep the engine going, right?
Right.
Then you have the managers.
Right.
They still need that.
Yeah.
So we are not taking away that, but they still need things like career development. They need talent management. So their total rewards move into that direction. And then you have the senior leadership, the ESOPs, the LTI, long-term connect with the organization.
Yeah.
With the new generation coming in now, we are also looking at things which can be beyond just the dollar and cents. We're talking about purpose. What are we offering as an organization? The ESG policies. These are becoming very, very critical for any organization. And for us to focus on that, what will drive the productivity at the end of the day. money can only take you to a certain level.
To a certain level.
And you need to focus on total rewards. And that's why, we have seen that transition from comp and ben to total rewards.
To total rewards.
And total rewards then, encompasses everything.
No, absolutely.
And if you look at productivity, productivity is very easy, right? For us to calculate it, especially when you have a sales organization or a manufacturing organization, it becomes much easier because your KPIs are very, very strict and easier for a total rewards job. But if you're in an industry which may not have that kind of a product delivery,
right, then
it might become a little difficult. So what will you do for that kind of a thing? And there could be multiple ways for me, I have been again lucky that I have worked primarily of my career in manufacturing industry.
Right.
So that was an ease which I got from the organization. And for me, I have worked on multiple, schemes for it. So again, as I was explaining, it could be short-term incentive, which is based on KPIs, strict KPIs, and then there's an improvement. It will be taken care of. Improvement, like if you look at a manufacturing setup, right? Reduction in wastages. It's a great KPI, and you build your incentive scheme around it. Or it could be sales incentive. It itself is a thing, and you can keep on improving it. When it comes to the senior leadership, they have a long-term vision, right? So things like CAGR becomes an important thing. Market share gain becomes an important thing. And you can drive all of that with incentive.
Right.
But again, want to say that it is very important, but it is not the only thing which should be used to drive anything, when it comes to organization.
Sure. But all you are saying is that, how you hook results with rewards is the game changing.
It has to be.
Yeah. No, I think the industry is, getting more and more, I would say, newer ways of being able to manage and measure quantifiable ways of looking at results, and hence be able to more objectively perhaps, link rewards with that.
Correct. As they say, right, MBA 101, that a company exists to make profit.
Yeah.
That's the baseline.
Yeah.
The rest of it has to follow. So your comp philosophy, total rewards philosophy has to focus on that.
Sure. And obviously, we've seen, as I reflect on what you're saying, we keep seeing so many organizations where there are times when, because of things outside your control, you don't end up achieving, what you'd set out to achieve. But, that the folks have put in huge effort, right? And something changed maybe in the socio-political environment, or something else happened. And I think there are still times when you have to discount for things outside and yet loosen your wallet strings and say, okay, it's not what we promised. So, what's been your experience on that? Accommodating for, such scenarios when looking at assigning rewards to business outcomes?
Well, at the end of the day, the business outcomes, you need to have, the funds to fund anything, right? And that funds comes from, your cash flows, everything has to come from your revenue efforts, reducing wastages, your operating profit has to go up. So it's a combination, and business outcomes is there. If you don't have a strong business outcome, you're on a vicious cycle. And the vicious cycle is that you're reducing your headcount, you're not, promoting any kind of, hires. But it's like, you are in a problem area. So it's better that our rewards are linked to the business outcomes.
Right.
The most important thing is for business to get their business outcomes correctly. Many a times that's where we falter. So we have KPIs, and many have a lot of KPIs which sometimes we don't know what is really driving. So important for the business leadership to really agree on the organizational objectives, which can be then broken into the KPIs. The KPIs for that year, for that quarter, for that half yearly, whichever is your measure, and then you link it back to your total rewards there.
Fair.
And then, whether it is bonus, whether it is base pay, whether it is incentive, long-term incentive, stocks, even benefits, then you can link back to everything.
So just tell me, I mean, just extending our conversation further, right? A lot of times there is so much mysticism around rewards. Almost everybody in the entire organization tries to double guess the philosophy. As hard as people like you and me have tried to be transparent about it, but maybe what are one or two things which you think definitely should be done to create greater confidence and trust when it comes to comp philosophy and decisions, and more than what I'm getting, I'm worried about what you are getting. And maybe I'm a 3 rater and you are a 3 rater, but maybe I get 6% and you get 9%, and there could be different reasons for that. Now, any high level thoughts for our folks to understand how should they be addressing these dilemmas?
Yeah, so as we always say in compensation,
कहते हैं ना कि यार वो आखिरी में कलम चल जाता है and everything just goes forward.
Now, as we say in compensation and total rewards, that either you convince someone or confuse someone. And we are masters in that.
Yeah.
But on a serious note, this is a very important topic. Pay equity, pay transparency is a need of the hour.
Right.
And it is not something which is new to the world, right? We have been discussing this. But I think now the governments are kind of wakening up and trying to implement certain things more stringently. Legislations are coming in.
Right.
Recently, as you would have heard, the EU directive has come on pay. So this is going to be the future,
change
which has to come in. How do you manage it, right? Look, you cannot, at the end of the day, not everything is same, right? Even in your hand, you have 5 fingers with the 5 different sizes. So you cannot say that everything has to be there.
Right.
But then there has to be certain baseline criteria that should be established. And that should be established with the fact that you are going to communicate it. So again, you are establishing it. So baseline criteria could be your comp philosophy. Publish it for your organization. Let everyone know what is your comp philosophy. So as an organization, I'm a market median organization. Fair, just publish it.
Right.
I am a P75 organization.
Right.
Publish it. So again, be transparent about your comp philosophy. There's nothing confidential on that.
Right.
So be transparent. That's one.
Yeah.
The second thing is be transparent on your things like salary ranges. This again, it's not confidential, right? It's a range. But just be transparent about it.
Right.
Communicate it. And be ready to, if you get challenged, be ready to have your answers to defend it, why you have something like that. And that could be based on the market data coming in, the industry that you are in, the macro scenarios, whatever, multiple things, and that defines your salary range. But again, publish that one. Third thing is communicate it transparently, whatever it is, even hard decisions.
Yeah.
Many a time, as organizations, we think that we are not talking to adults, we are talking to the kids. And we try to hide a lot of things because, they will feel bad about it.
Right.
No, I think everyone understands it. And even if you don't do it, they have thousands of places where they can find the data.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, Glassdoor or Ambition Box or somebody else will actually tell them what the ranges are.
Exactly. And now even the search firms are publishing data, right? So it's not hidden, and those days have gone when, those days have gone.
No one knows,
No one knows, and one person doing that.
You're saying the hush-hush mindset needs to change,
It needs to change. It needs to change. And better that we change it earlier than later. Someone will force us.
I mean, I've been in situations in the past where, our letters used to say, or the letters we printed used to say it's confidential. And when you discuss, I mean, I have known situations where people have been acted against.
Correct.
That, the organization doesn't give you the right to discuss comp.
Correct.
And I think that paradigm you're saying needs to change.
That needs to change, because there's no point for you to really control something that is uncontrollable.
Right.
You can't control gravity. It is a gravity. So be open about it.
Right.
Last thing is that when you're communicating it, you will always have differences, right?
Yeah.
There are people who are high performers.
Sahi baat.
There are people who are driving high critical value to the organization, much more than someone else. And again, we should be transparent about it.
Right.
It should be a talent management, journey on that.
Right.
Where managers have that, that understanding that how to define the critical talent.
Right.
And can we do difficult discussions also?
Yeah.
It cannot be in a thought process that, or someone else is making a decision. I'm the manager, but someone else is doing it. So that cannot be.
Yeah.
So you have to empower your managers and you have to educate your managers also.
This is, I think, and this is not any structured data that I'm sharing, but based on my own experience, I would say, especially in conventional organizations, maybe, 4 or 5 managers out of 10 may say, यार, I tried.
Exactly.
मैंने कोशिश किया था, ये पता नहीं HR ने normalize कर दिया या कहाँ हुआ. I am with you. So I know how sticky can those discussions talent. And what are some thumb rules according to you? Firstly, labeling talent as talent, then giving them disproportionate rewards.
Yeah.
So what are your thumb rules around it?
Right.
So that was the question. Yeah.
So, the most important thing, and this is something which every organization struggle, and while at a organization which is on a smaller scale, the HR does end to end, right?
Yeah.
So, and it is easier. The transition is easier. Comp is also done by one person.
Right.
Talent is.
Right.
But as you go bigger, your COE structures come into play, and many a times the COEs are not aligned. So talent does something on their own, total rewards does something on their own. I think the most important thing is both of them have to work together.
Right.
There is a reason why HR exists in an organization, that is attract, retain, motivate. And these are 2 important pillars for that. So both needs to work together. So that's one. The second thing is that we should have a clear definition of saying what is critical talent.
Right.
Yeah, if you are having 50% of your population as critical talent, then something is wrong.
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
So it has to be clearly defined. What is your critical talent? And obviously, critical talent will come on certain basis, right? It could be the business it is driving, for example, or the talent availability in the market, or the high performer. It could be hypo, as we use the term in the organization. Could be anything. But again, have these criteria defined. And it will be important for us to acknowledge that one. So many a times we don't acknowledge certain things. We again hide behind policies, practices, and this will not see here. I think everyone should be. So if I am identified as a hypo, I should be told.
Yeah.
That, and because of that, I am giving you X, Y, Z. So tomorrow, so many times the grievances of employees don't come in a formal structure. They come through a water cooler talk. They come through an engagement survey feedback, something which is anonymous, right? If I know why I'm paid, people will come to know what my compensation, and whatever I say, and people will, or I will myself will go and say somewhere something that, oh, I'm getting this much, I got this increment. And it will be important for me to know why I'm getting
Why am I getting there?
So that's one. The second thing is, someone who's not getting it, again,
Needs
should be telling.
Needs to know.
Why we are not getting it, and where that individual can work, so that next time.
Yeah, I think most of the time the problems happen when we don't communicate enough, right? Or we ourselves in our minds are not clear about the reason why someone is getting and why someone is not getting, and everybody wants to save all relationships.
Exactly.
Right. So I think there's a long way to go as far as implementing what you're saying is concerned. But I see where you're coming from. You're saying, let's call out what you're doing and fill it in with as much objective communication as possible. I think that's the only way the HR frameworks will grow.
Exactly.
Right? Otherwise, the maturity we'll never get there. Perhaps.
Exactly. And for example, we talk about critical skills as a talent, right? If someone is not getting it and the person feels bad, we should help that person to acquire that critical skill.
Sahi.
And hence again the talent management has to come and play that important part there.
Correct. Great. Now let me go one step further, right? And these days ESOPs are fashionable, LTIPs are fashionable. There are at least a dozen other ways of different tools which can be perhaps deployed to solve for the same problem. But what's the one advice? I mean, I've seen especially Indian maturing organizations or startups sometimes do not necessarily have a structured ESOP plan in place. But there is definitely a need to keep key talent. Any simple suggestions which without having an expert like you in their organization, what are things that such companies could look at doing?
So ESOP, out of the entire total rewards offering, just to highlight that, ESOP is one of the most expensive total reward and tools to have for us to implement it, right?
Right.
No, I'm just not talking about the cost impact. I'm talking about the regulation.
Yeah.
It's
intense, yeah.
And the problem it can create, especially if you're not following any legislation, the compliance gaps. So it's a massive thing. So organizations, I take it that they are mature enough to decide whether they really want to implement it,
right,
and also implement it up to what level,
right,
who should get it, what seniority, things like that. Now, if organization does not have ESOPs to offer, there are multiple other ways, and I always believe, and still the fact, cash is king, right? So we can offer, structured bonuses, deferred bonuses, shadow ESOP. Well, there's multiple things, phantom shares.
Yeah.
There are multiple ways, and it does not need any expert.
Yeah.
It's a simple Excel file thing to be managed well. Obviously, you need your finance partner to guide you on that.
Right.
And it is a simple Excel exercise which can be implemented by any organization.
Right.
And if you're not listed, and hence you're not offering a ESOP, or your governance becomes easier because something is controllable by you.
Right.
And that can be implemented. I think, having said that, cash also, has to be considered in a way. There is a lot of discussion about what is the value of cash today versus 5 years down the line.
Correct.
Inflation eating up.
Yeah.
All that. So someone needs to really think it.
Look at all that factor.
And then, approach that one. It should not be an offer which is, again, you'll spend building it out, communicating it out. But employees, when they communicate, when they see the final result, it is kind of eroded value, which they don't see any value to it. And I can tell you one thing, we may feel, but employees are very smart. And they can calculate whatever you're offering, they can calculate it very easily.
Right.
And it is also a strength. If your offering can be calculated easily by employees, that means you have done a great job.
Yeah.
So that can be offered. Having said that, organize, again, people will not only stay for money.
So no, of course.
And there has to be a lot of other things built into it.
Right.
There were talks about experiences, the purpose, why this company exists, and why should I join this company, and why should I stay there.
Right.
A lot of talk about it. And the younger generation, and that's something which is now being, openly shared. And
we meet so many people, Mayur. I mean, there are people I know and would have, perhaps come across in the very recent months also, where people are perhaps being paid 2x of the market, right? And they are willing to let it go.
Yeah.
And then there are people who are being perhaps paid, less than the median, and they've spent 2 decades in the organization, right? So you're absolutely right. Nobody can take away, the flavor of the organization, the warmth, the respect, how you feel, do you belong there? Those dimensions remain.
Exactly.
But, it's good to hear a rewards professional also speak, I know, you're not just wearing a rewards hat, you're wearing the overall HR leader hat. But a lot of times we don't see this philosophy equally being voiced by some of the people who only look at a numerical approach to it. So what you're saying is look at it holistically and create composite programs.
So I always consider rewards as, so portions of reward is an aggressive strategy of talent. There is a defensive strategy of talent, right? We talk about, we are sitting on these lovely chairs. This is the basic, right? If you don't offer them a nice chair to sit, and the chair is broken, it is not something which is aggressive, but this is, it's like a base.
Hygiene,
you have to create it, the hygiene factor.
Yeah.
And you need to offer that to a thing. But you say tomorrow you make this glamorous, you have 5, leather coating. Will people just sit and not expect anything? No, they will.
They would still expect.
So we need to ensure the hygiene is taken care of.
Yeah.
But then it has to be what more. And that what more may not come only from total rewards. It should come from everyone.
It should come from everyone. No, absolutely. So let me now again, because we talked a little about younger maturing organizations. We talked about organizations who are still to evolve their COEs to this level. So for organizations like these, right, where perhaps there is one HR manager, or maybe a few HR managers managing diverse portfolios together, what are a few, I would say, measures or data sets or reports which you think will always come in handy when they are looking at rewards? What are some of the, I would say, the fundamental data sets that these people should prepare, keep, review from time to time?
Well, again, if you look at the basics of total rewards, those things have to be taken care of. Yeah, if you have a salary range, great. Then ensure your comp ratios are there, so data set is there. If you are participating in a market survey, ensure that you're paying as per the market, or depending upon your comp philosophy. There's no one size fits all, so every organization will have their own comp philosophy. So have that as a set. Do hygiene checks. Ensure that you are in compliance with the law of the land wherever you are practicing.
Right.
Many times we miss that one. We think someone else will do it, but it never happens. So HR has to do that at the end of the day, and take care of that. Ensure that your practices, what you are communicating. So, for example, utilization rates. I'm just talking about, let's say, benefits. If you're offering something, then ensure that it is measured.
What's the utilization?
Utilization. And I also encourage many times, and including myself, it's easy for me to say, but even me, I get stuck on, I've given this, let it continue. Even when I know at the back of my mind it is not being utilized. Because we feel, who's going to change it? It creates another,
I know.
So it's very easy for anyone to fall into that trap. And I myself fall into that trap many a times. But important for us to really keep on assessing it. You may not do it on an annual basis. That's completely fine. But do it at least 2 years, 3 years, once, something. Make that decision. You are investing those things in the organization. New age nowadays, and these are tools which are easily available.
Right.
People can even predict attrition on Google or on various other AI tools which are available. And easier found there. That's an easy one which you can there. I think many a times total rewards is seen from a cost perspective, but if we can change that one and make it from a value to the organization point of view, and there are multiple smaller KPIs and the measures that can be presented to the organization, and they will really find it important. Again, depending upon
any one or two quick measures that the value measures, maybe.
Attrition is one of them.
Right.
It's a predictive tool which is available, easier, which is
most well understood. Yeah.
Very well understood, and I think managers will do it there. If you are using things like productivity analysis, whether it is productivity per employee. If that analysis is very simple, right? Just take the OPEX, take the revenue, take the cost. Very simple things.
Yeah.
And this can really help to make and many a times we should also think from a point of view is when you're doing something, how is the discussion going forward, finally resulting in a decision.
Right.
Because if you're creating multiple reports and really no one is
watching
reviewing it or making any decision, then there is no point for us.
No, absolutely. You talked about tech. How is any major movements that you're seeing when you talk about AI, ML, and some of the things you talked about already? But is there any specific segment of Comp and Ben where you see tech is going to revolutionize the way it's getting managed currently?
I think tech is going to revolutionize the total rewards big time. And why I say that is that we have AI,
right,
and so much work being happening and there, and everything is available on AI. And I enjoy using AI, and many times I get answers which So how it's going to revolutionize is one, it's going to focus on, like, so as Total Rewards, our bread and butter is the market data, right? But then doing the analysis, so much of market data available,
Right.
putting it in one place. Earlier we used to love Excel, right? We many times we became an Excel expert, but so much of data is still available. AI can help you condense the data and create a story behind the numbers. And data is data, right? And how you interpret it, what story comes out, AI can help you that one. So it really gives you a broader canvas there. So it's not just limited to an Excel file report which is coming out.
Right.
So that's one. Second, your utilization rate I was talking about earlier. You can use AI to do all that, right? Chatbots, old concept, but still not picked up.
I think the whole service experience is
correct.
going to change. Perhaps how you also configure programs to personalize them for people will change, right? So I think
incentive calculations.
On the fly.
On the fly.
Yeah.
So I'm a salesperson. I want to check if I do this, how
much am I making?
Now, if you do that, the person is motivated and will deliver.
Yeah.
But again, that investment will be required.
Yeah.
And then the overall scheme of things for Total Rewards, right? Even the communication to the team member, everything can be automated. You don't need to tap on someone's shoulder and say, "Oh, आपको ये मिल रहा है, वो मिल रहा है." Everything can be automated.
Correct.
And I believe technology will really enable the Total Rewards team. We should, there's a lot of discussion about tech taking over our jobs.
Right.
But I think we should embrace it.
Yeah.
Rather than, be resistant to it.
No, absolutely. So Mayur, we haven't talked a lot about benefits. We've touched on the sides, but how do you see this space evolving? I mean, very quickly, top level views on that.
So benefits became very important after pandemic.
Yes.
Before that, it was there.
Yeah.
You took care of statutory requirements, done. But after pandemic, things have really changed. And while it is sad that we went through a pandemic, but as everyone says, never miss an crisis, right? So never miss a crisis. And world changed.
Right.
And the benefits have also evolved after that. The focus on well-being, the way we see it right now, was not there earlier. And now that focus is there. Mental well-being, physical well-being, social well-being. It's an entire new journey which has come out of that. So benefits have moved away from being a statutory requirement to a experience to the employees.
Right.
Second, benefits have to be personalized. Those days have gone that I give you this statutory, done. But now it has to be there. So people have to look at this generation needs this. And that is also a good discussion because earlier we never had those discussions. So we never talked about baby boomers. We never.
Right.
But at least now we are saying, no, we still have baby boomers. We still have Generation X.
Right.
We just have new generations coming in.
Let them choose what they need.
And we need to take care of them.
Yeah.
So it's not, again, and that benefit has changed. The third thing is the governments have become very active now, which was never there. And they are, forcing 4-day week, this break coming up, that break coming up, the focus on well-being coming up, encouraging, those benefits which could drive not only just the employee, but the entire family thing. All that is very important.
Right.
And that has really picked up after pandemic.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Mayur, if I had an opportunity, I'd perhaps continue this discussion for another 2 hours. But I think we've covered a lot of ground. And but before I close, is there any one sort of message you want to give out to our viewers and the community out there when it comes to specifically, Total Rewards and in general as well as an HR professional? If there's anything you'd like to leave them, a thought that you'd like to leave them with.
Well, I can only ask the community and my fraternity here, HR colleagues. Total Rewards is a great profession, and it really brings the person very close to the business because you are dealing with numbers and you're working with CFOs and business leaders, and this is a great place to be in. So I know as HRBP, we want to do a lot of things, and that's the HRBP. So I always use this anecdotally that you are a general physician when you are a HRBP, so you know everything, right?
Right.
But then if you are specializing in something, then you really go deep down.
Deep down, yeah.
And total rewards can be that for you. If you really feel that you love numbers, obviously that has to come with that. If you can defend your decision making, and please be ready. People will question it. Also, please be ready that no one will ever say that I am paid much more. So I'm very happy. There will always be something which we have to work on, and that's important for us to keep on going.
Yeah.
But as a overall, total rewards is a good place to be in if you really want to specialize something in HR. Last, for my HR colleagues, AI. I was talking the technology piece. Embrace it. It is coming, and use it. It is a great strength. I'm again not an expert in AI or something like that, but I use it off and on, and I feel the tool is so strong, and it sometimes even tells you things that you have not even thought through.
Correct.
And embrace it. It's not going to take our job.
Yeah.
I think it is going to make our life much easier.
Yeah. No, I think just yesterday I was talking to someone, and on this remark that you just made, I think embracing tech and AI, I think consider it as your co-pilot, really. Your thought coach or something like that, right? And so I think it's been a brilliant conversation, Mayur. I have personally enjoyed every single word of what you've said. It has resonated deeply, and I think that's what our viewers also will take away. So thank you so much for taking out the time for being with us and having this lovely conversation. And for all of us who are listening in, do stay tuned in for more. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Gaurav. Again, a pleasure being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.